So your kid is jumping off of grocery carts and they're bouncing on mattresses and they're twirling around Walmart and they're playing music in the house and they're constantly moving at all times. They love dancing, they love moving. So you decide dance lessons is a good direction, right? I agree. But a 2-second Google search will let you know that there are like 60,000 dance studios in your town. Which one do you choose? As a professional dancer and choreographer and instructor, I have worked for a ton of different places. So here are 5 things you need to know before choosing a specific studio.
Yeah. Too bad. She got me thinking that she too bad. She got me thinking that she.
So I decided to do this video outside because it's beautiful. The 5 points I'm going to give you can be remembered through the acronym A.P.P.L.E. Okay, not Apple computers. I'm talking about an apple, like literally like the ones you eat. I should have had an apple for this. I should have been eating an apple during this video. But the first one is A. A stands for an incentive. And a little known secret for someone who has worked for plenty of studios and teaches kids myself, every studio has a structure that incentivizes you into a specific path, right? The most classic one, or the classic one is the amount or the volume of classes that your kid takes, okay? So we have a bunch of different classes, a bunch of different styles of dance, but the more you take, the cheaper it is, or the different benefits you get, right? And so they're like, hey, you should take more classes. Another one that I used to work for a studio that was ballet heavy, and so you had to take a ballet class with the classes that you took, no matter what you were taking. Even if you took one class, that made it 2 classes because you took that class and a ballet class. Another one is the competition team, right? So if you're on the competition team, then you basically get a discount on the recreational classes that you're taking as well. So they're like, hey, if you join competition, the competition team, then you also get a discount on these things. So if you find yourself going into a specific path that's easiest based off of the studio, what you're sensing is the business model and the incentive that the studio has baked into their structure, okay? Number 2 is price point. And you could obviously just ask them how much these classes are, right? So you have little Johnny, and they take 10 classes at the studio because they've incentivized you to take as many classes as possible. If, say, the classes are $60, okay? $60 for 10 classes is $600. But because they incentivize you to take as many classes as possible, say there's a one price for as many classes as you want bundle, which is at a lot of studios, right? So you pay $500 for these 10 classes. And so you're like, well, obviously I'll take the all you can eat bundle because that's the best. But there's more to price than just how many classes you're taking. That's tuition, right? There's the registration price, how many kids you're registering. There is sometimes family plans, but also there's fees. So what you should ask them is not how much these classes are, but you should be asking them, give me the breakdown of all the classes, all the fees that are going to be happening during the season. A season is like a school year, fall and spring. And hopefully they give it to you, but hopefully they'll be open to give you. If they don't, run. But when you actually ask for those fees, you'll see that there's so many more fees than just tuition, which is, say, recital fee, or there's registration, like I said, there's picture week, there's costumes, there's plenty of different things. So if there's at least one fee connected to each class, and your kid, little Johnny, is taking 10 classes, you're paying that fee 10 times, right? So don't ask them for how much the classes are. Ask them for a list of the fees that come with each season. It's a whole lot more in depth, and it gives you a whole lot more idea of what this price is. Which goes straight into programs, okay? So programming is, what is it that we're dancing for? Like, what are we working towards in these dance classes? The 2 biggest ones are recital and competition. Those are the biggest two, right? There's more, but we're not going to get into those. Recital is a low-key performance, depending on the studio, how low-key it is, performance that basically any recreational class does at the end of the year, okay? Competition is basically the same, but there's way more. It's not just at the end of the year, and it's high-intensity training in order to be ranked based off of your performance. So it's either regional, or it's out of town, or it's national, okay? So that recital is usually close to the studio because recreational classes are at the studio, so they're going to make it convenient. But competition can sometimes end up being out of town or even out of state. So then we get to L, okay? L is location, and again, another massively quick Google search will be like, what is the address for this place? That's not important. It's important, but it's not as important as the area or the neighborhood that the studio is in. Right? I've worked at studios that are like, you have to pass through like a smoothie shop to take classes there. Or you have to go past a tattoo shop to get there, right? Some parents with tattoos are like, I'm down, maybe my kid will want to get a tattoo when they get older, just like me. I don't know. Some parents are like, I'm not really sure how I feel about this, right? Or it's maybe a good neighborhood or it's a bad neighborhood. But an even more detailed version of the area is what is around this studio. I used to take, my first dance studio I ever took from, we were on the second floor, and on the first floor was a Subway, like Subway sandwiches. And so you had the ability to go with a couple of your friends to eat sandwiches in between classes. So within one like full day Saturday rehearsal, we ate like thousands upon thousands of pounds of meat and cheese and bread and cookies from this Subway. And so one, it was a great experience because we got to bond with each other. Two, it was great for the students or the parents who were dropping their kids off because they know even if I don't have time to pack you a lunch or a dinner, I can give you a couple dollars and you can buy something from Subway or you can share with your friend. So it's like, what is around this that helps me and helps my kid like have the best experience? It's the area around the studio. The final one, which is probably the most important, I'm gonna have to put this on this table to like zero in, okay? E. A.P.P.L.E. Educator. Who is teaching your child? You need to know that. That is the most important thing you need to know. Like before anything, before the price, before the location, before anything. What you should not do is just look at the resume. The resume will not tell you anything about who this person is as an educator. Where they went to school, how long, if they've been on a company, how long they've been teaching. Because they could be teaching for a couple decades, but if they're a bad teacher for a couple decades, what does it matter? Like their personality, even if they're a good teacher and they don't mesh with your kid, that's another important point. So if you haven't enrolled your kid, I would say go to the studio and start getting to know the director and the teachers. Just have conversations with them, talk with them on the phone, talk to them in between classes, see who they are as a person. If you already enrolled your kid, I would say have a test period where you test out who these people are, like the classes first. Like, what classes is my kid taking? Does he like this? Does she want to take this class? Does he, mesh with the student body? But more importantly, you're testing the teacher, right? How does that teacher interact with your kid? What happens when they get stressed? When it comes to performance times, like are they stressed? Are they yelling? Are they screaming? Are they chill? Are they kind? Who are they? Another thing is, ask, this is important for even before your kid starts taking dance classes. Have a relationship with your kid where you can ask them honestly how things went, okay? So you ask them after class, how was class? And they're like, good, because that's what everyone says. And then you ask them back, what made it good? Why was it good? How was it good? What good thing happened? Maybe not all of them at the same time, that's overwhelming, but at least one of those questions. And then they have to think about it. First of all, they realize you actually want to know. Second of all, they have to think about it, and then they could actually tell you their honest answer and be like, this class was not really that good. And you can be like, what's going on? It's like, well, the teacher was really mean, or whatever, or the teacher was amazing. This class was phenomenal. I want to stay here for the rest of my life. That could totally happen. I do this with my students all the time. A couple weeks ago, I asked my student, hey, how was your week? And they were like, good. And I was like, what made it good? And then they actually had to think about it, and they're like, actually this week was terrible. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, what happened? And I got to actually ask them. So do the same thing with your kid and see if what I do with my kids or with my students are what your teachers do with your kid. That is the sweet spot that you're looking for. Someone who is treating your kid as a human being that wants to dance. So, A.P.P.L.E. An incentive, price point, programs, location or area, neighborhood, and educator. Who is teaching your kid? With these 5 things, I promise you will get 90% of the information you need to know to choose the best studio for them. And I guarantee if you find something that meshes with you, that is the studio that you'll want to stay at.